Greetings, my fellow nerds and xenomorphs. It's Nick from Icor Comics here, welcoming you to Sci-Fi Sundays, where we bring you the most iconic and amazing science fiction from around the universe.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's everyone doing today? Hope everyone had a fulfilling week out there. The weather seems to be looking nice. We haven't had snow in a couple days up here in Montana, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it stays like that. Hope you guys are getting your supplies that you need, staying clean as always, fighting off this virus and all the crazies that come and go. Yep, I've just been watching sports reruns because everything I love and I hold dear is on hold right now, including hockey. So, just been watching reruns. I just watched Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers battle it out from a couple weeks ago because I missed it when it first aired. Great game. Connor Hellebuck out there with, I believe, 38 saves. Amazing performance from him. Jets taking the game 4-2 against the Oilers. Always fun to watch them play. Canadian teams are always a good time. Good time to watch. And I watched a really good boxing documentary about the great Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti and their 3 clash back-to-back boxing bouts. Great documentary. If you haven't checked it out, it's on HBO. It's about an hour long. It's pretty short. It goes into detail about their fights, what they did, and just amazing what Mickey Ward put his body through. And honestly, both fighters. But his last 3 fights of his career were truly intense. Especially the first one, blow for blow, battling it out. If you're into boxing, I would highly recommend to check it out. Just the punishment that all these guys went through was very crazy. And the second fight, Mickey Ward got his entire eardrum ruptured, his right one. And if you look at it, it shows some replays. It doesn't show the entire fight, but it'll show replays of each one. And if you look at it, he looks completely delirious, and he's gone for about 3 rounds. So, if you're a boxing fan, check it out. It goes into full detail of Arturo Gatti's death and the entire conspiracy and everything that led up to it, and his induction to the Boxing Hall of Fame up in Mass. So, very cool stuff. Also cool, if you haven't seen The Fighter, that's what The Fighter's based off of. The movie from 2012, I believe. But Mark Wahlberg is a narrator for the documentary, so also very cool. You get to hear a little Mark Wahlberg in there narrating what Mickey Ward went through in all of his years of fighting, leading up to the end of his career, and then, unfortunately, the end of Arturo Gatti's young life. Two amazing fighters and well-respected gentlemen in the field of boxing. And we got some shout-outs, some advertisements. Spacepop from corrector and writer Corey Mickle and artist Sebastian Ria comes Spacepop. Description: his life of royalty destroyed. Joshua Falskar finds himself with a crew just as unstable as he is. Living the merc for hire life, takes on odd jobs across the universe as demons from his past seek their revenge. Check it out at noircaesar.com. That's NOIRCAESAR.com. Link in the description. Next, we got Gary Shipman's Titan Mouse of Might. Titan is a mouse from the world of Pakin's land, and his epic story is about to be told. Titan Mouse of Might #1 is a 48-page hardcover adventure waiting for a curious reader. 48 pages is a huge book. Huge book. And just talking about the last two, Spacepop has amazing artwork. Amazing artwork. It has really cool graphics. I can't wait to get my copy. I'm going to add it to collection for sure. For science fiction fans, it looks like a must. He looks heavily influenced from, things as Cowboy Bebop or other science fiction out there. Titan Mouse of Might, also amazing artwork. He's got a couple sites running right now. You can check out the page on Facebook or any of the links in the description. Next up, we got charity. I'm proud to announce that iCore Comics donates a portion of each of our sales to the following charitable organizations, to include, from last week's podcast, 14th Hour Foundation with Chris Pronto. And we've got a new one, the Chris Kyle Frog Foundation. The mission of the Chris Kyle Frog Foundation is to honor God, country, and families who serve. It is focused on changing the world of this generation and the next by recognizing and strengthening military and first responder marriages through unique programs and powerful partnerships. Chris Kyle Frog Foundation has been around since approximately 2013, if I remember correctly. They do a lot of charitable organization events, just as the 14th Hour Foundation does. Chris Kyle, as you know, is an American sniper. He died years ago in a fatal shooting accident. They have a great organization, great people, do great things, mostly in Texas. So if you're down south, a lot of cool things going on down there. Check them out on the website, and their link in the description. We'll have more information coming from them. And as I said before, all sales, a portion of all sales, goes to these charitable organizations. So iCore Comics will be making donations to them and their people so that they can do more charitable events and maybe be in your local area. And you may get to meet some of these great individuals. They're helping out our country and helping out those who serve. So check out the website and see if they're going to come to your state or area and give them a shout out. Help them out. Get involved, people. That's why we're here, right? This review is pretty intense. It's a lot to cover. You guys voted for Minority Report, so that's going to be it today. One of my favorite science fiction movies of all time. One of the best Tom Cruise movies of all time. One of Steven Spielberg's best movies of all time. Minority Report from 2002. As I said earlier, is directed by Steven Spielberg. Stars risky business himself, Tom Cruise, as John Anderton. Also stars Max von Sydow and as Director Burgess, and Colin Farrell as Danny Whitwer. Colin Farrell's a little skeevy guy in here. Movie turns out to be eerily prescient, using the term pre-crime to describe stopping crimes before they actually happen. So, going on with the synopsis, Act 1, we got the current year, 2054. It's kind of interesting with the CGI in this movie. As Steven Spielberg films usually go, CGI is pretty highbrow. And coming from 2002, and the fact that I just recently rewatched it, CGI is definitely up to par. You can tell it's just a little bit dated, but with 18 years, it's going to happen, especially with technology and the way everything works right now compared to it did back in 2002. Lots of advancement. So it's amazing they got the CGI that they did and the shots that they did. So skyscrapers coexist with the famous Washington monuments. and houses from the 19th century. Anderton presides over a operation controlling 3 precogs, or precognitives, who drift aimlessly in a flotation tank. This was always kind of weird to me. And this was one of my favorite science fiction movies growing up. Being a young kid, it really grasped my knowledge, grasped my attention. Just seeing like the precogs in that, just aimlessly floating in there. Definitely kind of cool. Seeing that weird stuff. So the flotation tank, all brain functionality is tapped by computers. So they wear these weird kind of helmets that are connected to this TV monitor, and whatever they see gets projected onto this monitor so the team can see it. The center is able to pick up thoughts of predetermined murders. So I failed to mention this earlier. Obviously, if you haven't seen it, please go and watch this movie. It's amazing. It's an amazing work of art. But pre-crime stops 100% of murders. From what they said in the movie, pre-crime started roughly 6 years before the actual movie takes place. And in 6 years, the District of Columbia has had 0 murders. So it's 100% effective, and it stops all murder. So as I said earlier, the precogs, they see the murders before they actually happen. And they give out basically a broadcasted view of the murder. And the cops then arrest the would-be murderers for their crimes. The only 3 things the precogs can predict are the victims, the perpetrator, the exact time and date of the crime, and the sequence of events leading up to that crime. They do not pinpoint the location. Thus, Anderson and his team have to perform a meticulous process called scrubbing, where they process images provided by the precog's vision in order to locate telltale clues and thus narrow down the location. Once they are certain of the location, the team flies there to arrest pre-criminals, and they secure the culprit by haloing them, a device placed around the head that renders them fully incapacitated. So, the precogs broadcast a view of the murder perpetrator. Then Anderton, Tom Cruise's character, goes through and scrubs the image. Basically, he looks for any clues as to where it might happen. He looks for numbers on the doors. He looks for houses. He looks for colors, colors of the houses, the parks, venues, whatever, what have you, of the area they're going to. So it opens up with adultery, of all things. It's a great way to open up in a science fiction movie, right? But this guy walks in. He doesn't walk in, but he thinks his wife is cheating on him. So he pretends to leave the house, and unbeknownst to him, someone has been coming to your house. And he walks up, and he goes in the bedroom, and he kind of follows him in there. And the precogs see the murder. Basically, he stabs them both to death. So Tom Cruise is dispatched with his team, goes in from the park, basically the park where this area is, looks at all the houses, and it's kind of an interesting little part because they see all the houses, and all the houses look extremely identical. And he has to look at little clues, so little details to get his mind, situational awareness right to where he's going and to what he's going to do. So he talks to his guy on the mic on his communications, and he says, all right, cool. A little attention to detail he brings up, and he asks if the door was closed. Because there's one door open in the middle in one house, and the other 2 doors are closed on the side houses. So he keeps talking to his guy. This guy's scrubbing the image. All right, cool. No, he left the door open. All right, sweet. Tom sees the house right in the middle. Door's open. It's cracked. All right, cool. Team's going in there. Go in the house. Find this guy about to murder his wife and her lover. Secondary lover, I guess. And then they halo this guy. So when they halo him, they put on this little, basically a halo, as it sounds. More like a headband. Technological headband, I guess you could say. Renders him incapacitated. He basically passes out when you put this on. So it's kind of like futuristic handcuffs, but a stun gun in the same sense. You put this on, they pass out, and then you just drag the body out. I guess that's what they do. They don't really show that part, so they really just put on the halo, and that's kind of in the scene. So that's the opening scene. Anderton later reminisces over home movies of his ex-wife Laura and the couple's missing 6-year-old son, who disappeared several years before at a public swimming pool. Anderton is also shown to have an addiction to an illegal inhaled hallucinogen called Neuroin. Essentially, it's new heroin. So Tom is up there huffing and puffing heroin. It's kind of a clue into his character, and it's really good character development because he's a broken man. He lost his son years ago. Because they lost their son, they got a divorce, so he's now living alone. And he's addicted to drugs, which being cop, let alone a chief of an operation, it's pretty detrimental. It's pretty volatile being addicted to drugs, definitely. Anytime you're in a law enforcement profession of any sort and you're on any type of drug, it's volatile. So Tom is watching clips of his old family, essentially, his 6-year-old son, rewatching video footage he took. And all the technology in this movie is very, very cool. They have it's almost like a USB kind of, they remind me of the little PSP discs, if you guys ever played PSP. They look like that, only they're holographic, so you can see through them. And not only that, but they play whatever video is loaded or downloaded onto this little disc. So he's got this little disc and he pops it in, and he has kind of a projector format. And they have the same technology in their center of operation, where they get the precogs broadcast, whatever premonition they have, and then they take it on this little disc, take it out, and they sometimes they put it on a different screen. But all you have to do to transfer it, essentially, it's a lot like today, and they download something on a disc and they just take it out, and it's a lot like a little USB port drive, same kind of concept. But a lot of the technology and everything in this movie wasn't near to being released to the public back then in 2002, to include Tom's touchscreen interface gloves, essentially. Because touchscreen technology was very, very much in its infancy back then. So to Tom to have all these, moving parts and moving images around and enhancing and retracting the images and moving stuff, it's pretty cool to watch. Even today watching it, like I watched it the other day, and it's still very cool. That definitely got me when I was a kid. I was like, shit, we're gonna have touch screens. This is gonna be awesome. You have a big screen TV, be able to touch everything, move it around. Half the fact is that the touch screens are see-through in this movie. I think that was more Steven Spielberg making it look really cool, essentially. But it definitely panned out because it does look really cool. So, moving on with the synopsis, we have precog Agatha, which is the strongest of the precogs. She snaps fully awake, and images of a woman being murdered play across the chamber's video screens. Curious of what he's seen, Anderton goes down to containment, where numerous other haloed pre-crime assailants are kept. With the aid of a supervisor named Gideon. Gideon's so funny. Anderton finds the assailant, who was in Agatha's previs. So that's what they call it. The premonition is previs, essentially. Or prevision, whatever you want to call it. Though he's classified as a John Doe. So this scene's pretty cool. Agatha jumps out of her tank, essentially, the water, and grabs Tom Cruise on the hand, and she says, "Can you see?" And Tom Cruise is all stunned and is like, "What the hell?" She's not supposed to be moving. They're supposed to be in a coma state, basically. So they never move. They never look around. I mean, they kind of look around, but they never get out of their tank, move around, stuff like that. So she looks up and she sees this woman being murdered, and Tom Cruise goes to investigate and talks to Gideon. Gideon's a very funny actor. I wish I could remember his name. He does a great performance in this movie. He talks to Gideon, and Gideon's chambers are very, very cool. Very cool. One of the coolest sci-fi imagery, choreographed scenes in this movie for sure. Gideon's got a bunch of pre-criminals, I like to call them. I don't know if that's an actual term in this movie. I think it is. But the early convicted, I guess you could say. They come out in these tubes, and they have them all. They're not frozen, but their homeostasis is that of being in a coma, just kind of like Agatha, honestly. But they come up in these tubes, and they search whatever criminal activity they got, whichever murder, essentially, because they're all murderers in there. Pre-crime only stops murder. But they search for whatever it is, and he doesn't know much. He just knows she got drowned, because Agatha's previs has a woman drowning. So he describes it to Gideon. Say, yeah, Agatha saw something. There's one being drowned, and gives them the details, and they go and search for it. So they find, like I said earlier, they find this individual, this murderer. He's a John Doe. Gideon attempts to pull up more information on the case. He finds that out of the 3 precogs, Agatha's previs is missing. So kind of interesting there. There's a record for each murder in Gideon's chambers of the 3 precogs. There's one from Agatha and then the twins. So there's 2 twin boys and then Agatha. Agatha's the strongest. But every single murder has 3 different previs recordings, and Agatha's is missing. As well, information on where Anne Lively is. So Anne Lively is the woman, the victim that got drowned. Information on where she is also missing because they stopped the murder, so she's still technically alive, but they don't have any information on where she is. The only information that the computer has on her is that she was a single mother who's also a heroin addict, but records indicate she went to a rehabilitation clinic to treat her habits. So moving on, we have just a couple more cool inventions. They have a magnetized highway in this movie. It's very, very futuristic, even for today's standards. I know a lot of scientists and universities and technical institutions and whatever you want to say have been talking about doing something like this. The magnetized highways are very cool in this movie. Essentially, you get in your car and you input some coordinates, and then the car drives itself to whatever location on this massive interstate in DC. So upon return to his office, Anderton is alerted a new murder that is to take place in 36 hours. To his shock, he is listed as a perpetrator. So he does not know the victim. So essentially, Tom's up there. They get a previs. He is the murderer. Or he's the perpetrator. And then he doesn't know the victim at all, Leo Crow, leading him to believe that he is being set up. The caretaker of the precogs, Wally, sees the vision and gives John 2 minutes to leave the building before he hits the alarm. John escapes and is immediately chased down by his own team and Whitwer. Whitwer's Colin Farrell's character. A little backstory on Whitwer. Whitwer's from the DOJ, Department of Justice, for those of you that don't know. Whitwer is trying to basically inspect pre-crime, essentially for what it is. Pre-crime is trying to go nationwide. In this movie, pre-crime is only used in Washington, D.C. They're trying to establish it nationwide, so Whitwer's there to evaluate all of their studies and information and stats and whatnot. So Anderton, having trained his team, has an advantage and escapes them through an apartment building and an automatic auto assembly plant using a car that is constructed around him. Now, this is a really cool scene. You don't see that very often, but he was inside the car while it was being made, and then he escapes in the car. Pretty cool scene. Also, in this chase scene, there's a sonic shotgun. I want to say it's homage to Terminator 2. I can't exactly say that. He has a sonic shotgun, which is essentially a lever action. Tom Cruise kind of reloads, does the whole twist thing that Arnold does back in 93 in Terminator 2, 94. But he does the whole twisty motion with the shotgun and then shoots it. It emits a sonic boom or sonic blast, throwing people across rooms and throwing people into boxes. Very interesting scene and very action-packed scene. So later on, while still being hunted, Anderton goes back, basically sneaks into Precog's chamber, and he awakens Agatha. Gets Agatha out of there, and there's like a drainage in their tank. So he hits like a drainage, basically a hatch, and he opens up the hatch, and then him and Agatha go out of it and escape. Another really cool scene in this movie is when Anderton undergoes eye transplant surgery. So in this future, this very viable and foreseeable future that is Minority Report. Honestly, very believable. Everybody walks around and they get their eyes scanned, so their retinas are getting scanned. So they walk into the mall and they get the retina scanned for various items and advertisements like, hey, he walks in this one place and he's like, it's like, John Anderton, come on this, vacation. John Anderton, you need a new coat, etc. Stuff like that. But anywhere you go, it scans your retina so they know exactly where people are. I feel like this is happening, or it's going to happen. Number one, it doesn't take any new technology besides a retinal scan. It's super easy, and they're already doing that anyway. I see it happening pretty soon. But the doctor, he finds out, is one guy that he put away. So he actually arrested this guy for pre-crime for basically medical malpractice and wanting to murder someone. But the guy says no hard feelings and does the eye transplant surgery. And is definitely deep inside the ghetto. It's pretty bad area he's in. So Anderton, to try and find the truth, takes Agatha to a videographer, essentially, to try and read her mind, or what she saw, look up the previs and upload it. And they upload it, they get extracted, download it. And it's exactly the same previs that she had earlier. Anderson feels that he's been given, essentially, the title in a Minority Report. A Minority Report is what happens when the precogs disagree and they previs something that doesn't actually happen. So Minority Report's pretty rare. There's said to only be, I think they say 3 or 4, so it's extremely rare. He feels like he's a Minority Report just because he doesn't know who Leo Crow is. He has no motive or motivation for murder at the time. And his murder is supposed to take place within 36 hours of this whole fiasco and his team hunting him, etc. So he thinks it's a Minority Report. His friend pulls up Agatha's previs, and it looks like it's not. So Anderton then tracks down Crow's address and gains entry to his apartment. Crow is not present when he finds a pile of photographs of children, including his missing son. Anderton realizes that there is no Minority Report in his case, and he is now going to kill Crow. So driven by revenge, he has a motive now, given his dead son. So Crow, who now blames for the kidnapping. When Crow enters, Anderton assaults him and extracts a confession as Agatha pleads with Anderton not to commit his murder. Anderton is blind to her pleads and is intending to kill Crow until the timer on his watch goes off, the time when the murder is supposed to take place. Anderton relents and begins to read Crow his Miranda rights. Crow reveals that the photographs are doctored and were given to him to leave the apartment in order to set up this very confrontation. His family has been promised a cash payoff only if Anderton kills him. To force his outcome, Crow grabs Anderton's gun, aims the weapon at himself, and pulls the trigger. So it's actually a pretty intense scene. Somebody's paying off Crow, take the fall. The problem is that the previs was the exact same order in which it happened. So even though Tom didn't actually want to kill this guy, he still said the exact same thing that was in the previs. So it looked the exact same way, exact same conversation, and the exact same time, or like maybe 2 seconds after he actually shot. But he grabbed the gun and then shot himself, and then he fell out the window exactly the same way. So now we hit really the most intense part of this film. The third act where it all comes together. There's about 2 or 3 different storylines, and they all coincide, and the third act really brings the movie to fruition. In this part, we have Whitwer, Colin Farrell's little character. He's talking to Burgess. Burgess, the director, questions about what happened to Anne Lively, the potential killer. Basically, earlier, Tom was asking about Anne Lively to his wife, and etc. So he's asking about a potential killer who was arrested based on the matching visions of Arthur and Dasher. Those are the 2 twins. But after pre-crime had taken the man away, a second person matching the same look and of the potential killer arrived and killed her in exactly the same manner. The similarity of the incidents would simply lead the precog text to assume the act Agatha witnessed as an echo vision and therefore disregard it. Whitwer suggests that only a member of pre-crime would have the skill to manipulate the system in this way. Whereupon Burgess, revealing himself as the true architect of John's framing, kills Whitwer, knowing that the other precogs are unable to foresee this act with Agatha gone. So essentially what happened in Echo is when the precogs see the previs and it comes up on the screen and the team gets dispatched to stop the crime and they arrest the pre-criminal. In Echo is the murder a second time. So essentially a second previs of the murder is replayed and the technician in the chamber dismisses it. And he's like, okay, they stopped the pre-crime, they stopped the murder, this is exactly how it would have happened. And then he deletes it. So essentially what happened is Burgess played the system, the director. Anne Lively's first assailant was arrested by pre-crime and then taken off. And shortly after, Burgess, the director, dressed in the exact same attire as the original killer, goes and drowns Anne Lively. So what was thought to be an echo was actually a murder. Upon this new evidence, Whitwer, and upon the confrontation with Whitwer and Burgess revealing himself as the true architect of John's framing, kills Whitwer, knowing that the other precogs are unable to foresee this act with Agatha gone. So with Agatha still with Tom, they can't have any previs at all. They need all three of them. So Burgess goes along with the murder and kills Whitwer. As Anderton and Agatha hide in Laura's house, he realizes that he was set up because of what he knows about the Lively case. So Lively turns out to be Agatha's biological mother and had been killed because she wanted to reunite with her daughter. The police finally apprehend Anderton, halo him, and return Agatha to the precog's chamber. Burgess later meets up with Laura to confront her, but when she brings up her preoccupation about the Lively case, he inadvertently refers to it as drowning, contradicting what he earlier said to Laura about him not knowing what happened. So Tom's wife, or his ex-wife rather, essentially knows what's going on. So Laura rushes out back to precog headquarters and forces Gideon to release Anderton, who then calls Burgess to reveal he's figured out his whole murderous murder, brings a reception to Burgess' honor to a frightening halt by screening for all to see the Minority Report that shows him killing Lively. It's like broadcasted at this big tuxedo, seminar, whatever they're having, for everyone to see there. At the same time, a new potential murder is detected by the precogs with Anderton as victim and Burgess as perpetrator. So they're getting a previs now of Burgess killing Anderton. Realizing that Anderton must be somewhere nearby, Burgess takes an antique revolver given to him as a gift and searches for him. When the two men come face to face, Anderton points out that he is in a catch-22. If Burgess shoots, he will prove that pre-crime works, but will be haloed for life. And if he doesn't shoot, the pre-crime system is proven to be unreliable. Burgess resolves the dilemma by killing himself. The pre-crime program, shortly after this, revealed to be subject to manipulation and thus flawed, is abandoned. All criminals in prison under the pre-crime initiative are pardoned and released. The local departments keep watch on many of them for years. Anderton reconciles with Laura, now pregnant with their second child, and the precogs are moved to an unnamed remote location where they can live in peace. Essentially, it's a happy ending. There's a lot of theories out there that Anderton is on, because he's on hallucinogens, that he was incarcerated and none of that final scene happened. So Burgess got away with it. Tom's still incarcerated. The precogs are still doing their job, and pre-crime's still a thing. So that's a theory that's out there. I think it's highly plausible, being on hallucinogen. I do believe that whichever vision that Steven Spielberg was going for, it definitely panned out. It definitely worked in this film. Conclusion: Minority Report is a great science fiction thriller that also makes you think and perplexes your mind. Filmed as a 1950s noir detective film, Minority Report engages in a strong murder mystery plot and an on-the-edge extreme science fiction setting and landscape. Folks, if you haven't seen this movie, go ahead and check it out. I had the disc. I'm not sure which platform it's on. I would venture to say, for those of you that have PSN, PlayStation Network, or Xbox, it's definitely on those too. I have not seen the series before you ask me. I do want to check it out, but have not had the time. And that's all we got for Minority Report. Next up, our promos. We've got The Degenerate Zayak and His Unruly Adventures. Kickstarter starting next month. Also, Amazing Comic-Con down in Las Vegas. No, it has not been canceled yet. In June 26, 27, 28th. The weekend before the 4th of July. We'll be down there. We'll have a table. As long as coronavirus doesn't kill us first. If you have not subscribed to this podcast yet, please do so. We're on YouTube, Spotify, and I'll be continuing to upload it on Facebook. If you want a commission drawn by myself, please submit your wanted piece of art to the link attached. If you don't have a copy of Killers Number 1, you can order that on the link as well. Also, subscribe to our newsletter for any updates, content, etc. Any order that you guys have, use promo code ZIAC67, that's ZIAC67, for 10% off any commission or Killers Number 1. And I just want to say thank you to the audience. Thank you guys for the love and support. Everything on Facebook. All the messages, all the orders. It's really come together. We've gone up to almost 900 likes as of now. So it'll probably be higher by the time this airs. But coming from about 300 likes last month, that's insanity to me. So thank you for all the love and support. And click to subscribe to the podcast to get cryogenically frozen. Be sure to vote on the next episode. What you guys want to see? Comment with any science fiction movies, tales, quests, comics, etc. etc. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. See you guys next week.
I don't really like risk for risk's sake or anything. And I do think that a lot of things are very risky with a low chance of success. But if you want to try to come up with an innovative breakthrough, that's going to be how it is. Anything which is significantly innovative is going to come with a significant risk of failure. But if you've got to take big chances in order for the potential for a big positive outcome. If the outcome is exciting enough, then taking a big risk is worthwhile.
Yeah.